I climbed over the lip and descended to the hollow. First step. The sand did not sink, but held me upright, as if each footfall made its own stair-step. Second step. No mishap. In a few seconds, I stood beside the pillar, its wide black cap looming over me. The tropical dark that had slipped across the island was profound, but the clouds parted, and stars in a diffuse, glittering belt illuminated the sand, the hollow, the pillar. I knelt. Around the base scrolled a single line of text in old, sweeping Didact characters, used almost exclusively by warrior servants, and in recent history only by their most powerful class, the Prometheans. I was far from family, rate, and class. But what I read in those characters practically defined my attitude toward existence. You are what you dare. Everything fell into place. This confirmed what I had felt earlier. A Forerunner youth, a low manipular, had been expertly recruited by the librarians and Scylla, on instruction of the librarian herself. He had been deposited on the ring island within Jamunkin crater and guided to a strange patch of white sand guarded by stolid war sphinxes. His guides had urged him to cross a deadly barren ground of sand and stones, then, all unknown to themselves, had sung a pre-programmed song. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the site had changed, reacted, responded. You are what you dare. The synchron was definitely upon me. By the sensations that crept up and down my back and my neck, I sensed that a connective loop of world lines would bind me for a long time, perhaps forever, to the two humans waiting in the dark, back at the stone circle. I wondered if they knew. I stretched out my hand and laid it on the pillar's smooth surface. The cold stone seemed to shiver beneath my fingers. A voice vibrated up my arm and echoed in the bones of my jaw. Who summons the Didact from his meditative journey? I was stunned into immobility. My thoughts flashed with panic and wonder. The story still echoed over thousands of years. The Didact. Here, surrounded by the last population of humans in the galaxy. Not even a fool such as myself could believe such a thing. I had no idea what to do or say. But out of the dark behind me, the humans began singing again. And with that wailing, wavering song, the tone of the voice from the pillar changed, its challenging tone. A message from the Life Shaper herself, conveyed in a strange manner, but the content is correct. Is it time to raise the Didact and return him to this plane of existence? A Forerunner must give answer. There was really only one sensible answer. No, sorry, leave him be, we're leaving now. But you are what you dare. And the chance to meet this hero, enemy of all humans. Only the most foolish of young Forerunners would dare this, and so once again I had been well chosen. Raise him? I said. You mean bring him back? Bring him back. A Forerunner commands this. Stand aside, young messenger, the voice instructed. Stand well back. This is a millennial seal, held by the wisdom of Harbu, hardened by the strength of Lang, and the force of its breaching will be great. Chapter 4. The sand within the hollow whirled outward in spiral ridges, washing around my feet but not upsetting me. The pillar seemed to melt down, flow away into the sand. The movement dug deeper, revealing a large ovoid vessel originally buried meters below the surface. I backed away, not to stumble and get caught up in the excavation. The two humans and I again waited on the wall, dodging the sand as it hurled itself over and formed neat conic piles on all sides. Eventually, the pit became a well. The great copper and steel vessel, over 10 meters high and at least that wide, gleamed as if freshly forged. Reiser was chattering to himself, no doubt singing little prayers to little gods. Or perhaps the Hamanune had greater gods, huge gods, to compensate. Shakas did nothing but watch and jump aside when necessary. Bad enough that a forerunner of another rate would disturb the Didact's Cryptum, but if indeed this vessel carried the great Promethean warrior, he might be severely displeased to find himself in the presence of the descendants of his old enemy. Again, the voice buzzed in the bones of my skull. Minimum safe distance, 50 meters. Stand aside. Millennial seal will be breached in 5, 4, 3, 2. Look away, I said to the two humans. As one, we all averted our eyes. I heard a crackling rumble and saw, even through my palms, a flash of transchronic blue. It revealed the bones of my hand. I felt it in my viscera. It made me feel immensely old, as if I might crumble to dust. I seemed to sense deep pulses of memory from all who had ever chosen to enter a cryptum, and were still sealed in profound meditative transcendence, united, brothers and sisters in timeless Zankara. The night was illuminated by another flash, this one pure white, shot through with arcs of green fire. Behind us, through the jungle, palm leaves swung wildly, caught in changing winds. I looked everywhere, but directly at the Cryptum vessel. Then it was over. The pit fell silent. After-images danced across the darkness and faded. Now appeared the first striations of dawn. It seemed that mere seconds had passed, and yet the morning was upon us. Soon it was bright, and we were allowed to see clearly what we had done. The ovoid vessel had parted in 3 sections above its midline belt. The sections had opened outward, like the protecting calyx that falls to unveil a flower. But the great figure so revealed was not nearly as pretty as a flower. In fact, curled up like some monstrous, wrinkled embryo, it resembled a great corpse, shriveled by time, mummified. Back in the town, I had been offered tours of catacombs filled with human dead, a disgraceful performance typical, I thought, of these degraded beings. There are things of which I have no curiosity. Yet now, I was looking upon the mortal shame of a Promethean. I had no idea what happened within a cryptum, or why any forerunner of such fame and rank would choose such an exile, whether in penitence or insanity. At first, I did not hear the approach of the sphinxes. From their frozen circle, 3 of the machines had unfolded great curved legs and now walked over the low black rock walls. Between the swinging legs and grapples, hard blue light sparked and flowed. The closest of the sphinxes unfolded 4 arms from just below the port of its empty control cabin and spun silvery cords into a loose net. Then, the sphinx stepped over us and descended into the pit. On the other side of the circle, another sphinx also descended and reached into the opened cryptum to gently lift the Didact's shriveled body. With infinite patience, the machines shrouded the body in the net, then withdrew from the pit, the net and its contents swinging slowly between. They carried the Didact right over us, and I looked up at the wrinkled hide, the minimum of clothing concealing the body's bony hips. I could not see the face or the head, but I remembered warrior servants who had visited my family in Orion. Powerful, fiercely handsome, giving me in my cool, calm nursery both visions of strength and nightmares of great destruction. As a full-rate Promethean of the warrior servants, the Didact, revived and uncurled, might have risen to twice my height and weighed in at 4 to 5 times my mass. His shoulders by themselves might once have been as broad as my outstretched arms. But now, lacking armor, alive or dead, he looked as vulnerable and ugly as a hatchling bird. With a humbled, shift-footed gait, I followed the machines and jumped over the walls, ignoring the prescribed path. Shaka said nothing as he walked behind me. Riser kept to the ceremonial tracks of his ancestors and fell behind. "Truly, is this treasure?" Shakas asked, dubiously. "Not treasure," I said. "Disaster. Any Forerunner who disturbs a Cryptum. Sanctions. Disgrace." "What's a Cryptum?" Shakas asked. "A vault of ages. In search of wisdom or to flee punishment, a mature rate might choose the path of endless peace. It is allowed only for the most powerful, whose punishment might prove troublesome to the Forerunner hierarchies. You know this, yet you opened it? Will they punish humans too?" No defense, no excuse. I felt both embarrassment and misery. It wasn't me, not just me. You sang the right song, and it hurt you, I said. "You're happy to share the blame." Riser had caught up with us, running along and balancing, arms out. "We sang nothing," the little human said. Shaka shrugged and looked away. I wondered at their foolhardiness, that they did not vanish into the jungle. The war sphinxes breached the ellipse of their still-frozen companions and, without slowing, passed through, then shoved and crashed into the jungle. 2 more out of the original 12 sphinxes then lifted up on blue sparking limbs, joints alive with hard light, and followed the others through a cleared path of shredded greenery. "What are we going to do?" Shakas asked as we picked our way over broken palms and bushes. "Await retribution," I said. "Us too? Truly?" I looked upon them and felt pity. These war sphinxes had likely killed many of Shakas's ancestors. Humans must have sinned greatly against the mantle to deserve such a fate. Chapter 5. The sphinxes circled east on the ring island, gradually trending outward from the inner shore. Following in their cleared wake, we finally reached the opposite beach and looked across the broad outer lake toward the distant crater rim. The sphinxes conveyed their burden to a low, flat building constructed of bare blast metal, gray and angular. This structure lacked the nodes and projectors that created the ornate outer shells common in Forerunner architecture. Indeed, from the sky, it might have looked like a forgotten storage depot, and against the line of tall palms from the lake, it would hardly have been noticed at all. More and more mysterious. The 4 sphinxes approached in ranks of 2. The pair carrying the Didact paused before a wide descending ramp, the entrance. I heard the sound of huge doors swinging wide. The sphinxes sidled down the ramp into the building. The other 2 sank to the ground outside and folded their legs and arms with faint whirs and sighs. The blue glow of their joints dimmed and vanished. We walked slowly past the immobile pair, skittish, uncertain whether they were guardians or just monuments once again. Bravest of all, Riser stopped to pat the pitted surface of the nearest machine, drawing an exclamation from Shakas. "Don't do that, they could vaporize us." "Don't know that," Riser said, eyes narrow, ears up, lips straight. No doubt, this was his courage face. Indeed, the sphinxes looked as stolid and ancient as ever. I peered down into the entrance. Sand had drifted down the ramp, marked by the dimpling steps of the other sphinxes. Darkness lay at the bottom. The doors were still open. You are what you dare. Stay here, I told Shakas, and started down the ramp. He reached to grab my shoulder. Not your business, he said, as if concerned for my safety. I gently pulled away his hand. The touch of his flesh was not as repugnant as I had thought. It felt little different from the skin of a young Forerunner. My own. Surely we could not actually be brothers, both shaped by the precursors. I think the librarian wanted all of us here, I said. My fear had merged with my boldness, and some other quality I mistook for courage, forming foolish resolve. I was like an insect flying toward a flame, certain it promised, if not complete justification and salvation, at least supreme adventure. Someone slipped messages into your brains before you were born. Someone told you to lure a Forerunner. You sang the proper codes, and the Cryptum opened. Shakas formed his mouth into an O, then knelt and held his arms over his head, facing away from the ramp. Riser joined him, glancing up at me as if unsure this was the proper way to observe the ritual. The librarian touches all, Shakas said, and together they lapsed into whispered chants. I continued down into the darkness. The first chamber within the building was wide and dank, 4 times my height, just barely enough to admit the sphinxes. Coolness pooled while warm air swirled above my waist. A dim greenish light grew in the darkness, and I saw in outline the sphinxes facing each other over a broad pit filled with silvery liquid. The sling containing the Didact draped between the sphinxes, mere centimeters above the pool. I squatted as close as I dared to the edge. Around me for the next few minutes, all was still. Then the jarring voice again addressed me. Forerunner, do you witness this return? I tried to retreat, but a brilliant white light shot down from the roof of the chamber and held me. The light shimmered and removed my will to move. Do you witness? I witness, I said, my voice low and tremulous. Do you speak for this one about to be recalled? I don't know what to say. Do you speak? I speak for this one. Do you defend the decision to bring the Didact back from ageless peace? To me, the shriveled body looked dead. I wondered if that meant the Didact was about to be resurrected. Something I had been taught was impossible. Clearly, I understood nothing of what was happening, but by now I knew the drill well enough to simply say, I defend the decision. From the roof of the chamber, 4 ribbon sections of personal armor, big enough for a full-rate Promethean, dropped slowly through dilations. The pieces hovered on both sides of the sling, and from them depended long tentacles, transparent as glass, which quickly filled with 3 colors of liquid, the basic electrolytes and nutrients required for long journeys. Most Forerunner armor was equipped to keep the wearer alive for years without outside sustenance. Approach, the voice instructed. The Didact is unaware of this realm. Administer the reviving fluids. My whole body shook, but I stepped into the pool and waded through the silvery liquid. My legs warmed. The tentacles curled toward me, not aggressive, simply offering, waiting. The sphinxes had spread the net in such a way that it opened at the top, revealing the coiled form. The Didact's face was now visible for the first time. It was indeed a strong face, the skin drawn tight against the natural skull beneath. Apply the electrolytes, the voice told me. Obligingly, the red-filled tentacle pushed forward, and I grasped it. "To his mouth?" I asked. "Push through the lips. Dehydration will be reversed. Rigor will be suspended." I leaned in, trying not to touch the shriveled arms and not succeeding. The skin was not cold, but warm. The Didact was not dead. I bumped the end of the tentacle, a narrow spigot, against the Didact's dried lips, then pried them apart, revealing wide, grayish-white teeth. The spigot released a flood of red liquid between the clenched jaws. Most of it spilled down the shriveled cheeks and drained into the pool. I then applied 2 shades of blue fluid. Came a rustling within the net, the large body actually stirring. The sections of armor flexed above the Didact as if eager to embrace and protect him. Timelessness is deep. He returns, but slowly. Lift and stretch his arm gently, the voice instructed. Had the arm not been shriveled, the weight might have defeated me. But I did as I was told. I walked around the sphinxes, lifted and rotated the other arm, then straightened and flexed the legs, almost as stiff as wood, until the skin took on a different sheen, and a kind of suppleness returned. I followed all of the instructions of the voice that vibrated through my jaw, massaging and cleansing the Didact with handfuls of the silvery liquid as he took in more renewing fluids. For the next 4 hours, I helped painstakingly restore the shriveled Promethean from his long slumber, from that profound, meditative exile that was a dim legend among Forerunners my age. Return him from the joy and peace of timeless space. His rheumy eyes opened. 2 protective lenses fell away, and he blinked, then looked up at me with a terrible scowl. "I curse you," he murmured, his voice like rocks grinding on the floor of a deep ocean. How long have I been here?" I said nothing. I had no idea how long. He twitched and struggled, but the net restrained him, that he might not move too quickly, too soon. After an awkward time, he fell back, exhausted, and fluids leaked from his nose and lips. He tried to speak, but it was difficult. He managed one more utterance, a question. "Has the damn thing finally been fired?" "Go now. It is done," the voice told me. I scrambled out of the pool and left the chamber. The humans waited for me, but I was too moved and too frightened to speak.